Well, Cokie Roberts is a veteran and widely respected journalist and author, now a political commentator for ABC News and NPR. And Cokie, of course, Ambassador Haley has a lot of fans in Israel. What do you make of the reasons and the timing of her departure and the impact it could have on the administration's policies?
I think that the administration's policy or the president's policy, so I don't think it will have much impact there. But the reasoning appears to be that she really does want to rejoin the private sector, having spent a great deal of time in government of late. She has small children, and she wants to make some money, apparently. But it's also true that if she does want to run for president, either in 2020 or beyond, that she needs to do some separating from President Trump, and this is a good time for her to do it.
All right, well, let's talk about the other key seats to be filled in the November 6th midterms. Obviously, in the aftermath of the Kavanaugh confirmation, both Republicans and Democrats seem to be making the argument that it is going to help them substantially in the polls. Trump is holding rallies almost daily. He's painting it as a win. Cokie, before we come back to you, here's the president in Iowa last night.
But the Democrats have become too extreme, and they've become, frankly, too dangerous to govern. They've gone wacko.
So the president obviously wasted no time in turning the Kavanaugh process into ammunition against the Democrats. What's your take on how both parties are handling the aftermath ahead of the midterms?
Well, the Democrats are basically trying to change the subject, if the truth be told. The people who are energized on their side around the Supreme Court are already energized, and it doesn't make any difference if you talk about it anymore. But there are a lot of people who aren't, and so they want to talk about health care and education and Social Security, things that people are concerned about in their daily lives. On the Republican side, it certainly gave them a shot in the arm. People who were kind of ho-hum about this election suddenly got very energized, and the president is, as you said, taking it on the road. He has 4 rallies planned just this week, so he is out just constantly stirring up his supporters, and he's now taken to calling the demonstrations around Kavanaugh mob rule. Now, you know, the newspapers keep showing pictures of moms with babies so they don't look so mobbish, but that is the way that the Republicans are characterizing it. Whether they can keep that excitement going for another month is a big question. But at the moment, they certainly did get a boost.
Well, Cokie, just you've been around politics your entire life. With all you just said, what does your gut tell you? Who's got the advantage going into those midterms?
Well, all year, the predictions have been that the Democrats have a big advantage. I've always been quite skeptical of that for a couple of reasons. One is that the economy is thriving, and even though a lot of people aren't feeling it directly, there is a sense of optimism about the economy. And the other is that the way that we have managed to have district lines, the way the areas in which a member of Congress runs, are drawn in a way that is very favorable to Republicans. Now, that's the Democrats' fault. They didn't pay any attention to what was going on in the state legislatures for years, and it's the states who draw the lines, and the Democrats are at a big disadvantage there. So, all things being equal, they should do well in the House of Representatives, because historically that's the case in the first midterm of a presidential term, but it is not at all certain.
I want to bring up something we saw from President Trump today that is a sort of constant subject during this presidency, tweeting out a poll this time from a conservative group that describes its mission as neutralizing the propaganda arm of the left. Trump tweets, Media Research Center reports 92% of stories on Donald Trump are negative on ABC, CBS, and ABC. It's fake news. Don't worry, he says. The failing New York Times didn't even put the Brett Kavanaugh victory on the front page yesterday. Not an entirely new statement from the president, but this constant attempt to erode trust in journalism and in fact. How concerned are you about the lasting impact that is going to have far beyond the Trump presidency?
It's very worrisome. It is really quite dangerous, frankly, for a journalist to cover a Trump rally. We have private security in many cases. There are instructions that go out to say, don't wear your press credentials the minute you leave the hall because you don't want people attacking you. It's not a good situation at all. And the president is not only attacking the press, he's attacking other American institutions, the courts, the judiciary, the FBI, the intelligence services. All of it is under attack from the president. And I think it's going to take a good while for people to have any trust restored in American institutions. And the press is at the top of that list.
Cokie, there is a debate in in U.S. journalism that given President Trump's unique style, it has to, in a sense, adjust to that style, perhaps be more aggressive. Others say, no, now is the time, in a sense, to maintain the high road. Where do you fall in this debate?
I think that there's been a very serious and important response on the part of the media to say, look, we can't just let him get away with saying these things that are simply not true. And so everybody is very much on his or her game to say, okay, here's what the president said. And really, for the first time in my long life, news organizations are saying, here's what the president untruthfully said or falsely said. And in the case of the New York Times, they say the president lied. We don't say that at NPR because it implies intent. But a lot of other people are using that word. So it's a sense that you can't just reprint what he says as if it is the truth, because more often than not, he's not telling the truth. He's telling something that is incorrect at best, misleading at worst.
Cokie, in the bigger picture, obviously connected to all of this, you have described the atmosphere in Washington now aptly as vicious and venomous. It's a big question, but what do you think is it going to take to begin to repair that? Is it about one courageous lawmaker standing up, taking a stand against his or her party, or much bigger than that?
You know, right now, a courageous lawmaker taking a stand against his party is called a loser. I mean, that's what will happen to him. Right. Senator Jeff Flake, who is the outgoing senator from Arizona, who asked for an extra week for more FBI investigation of the charges against Brett Kavanaugh, he said to CBS News that he could have never done that if he were running for re-election. He could only do that because he was retiring. So right now, there's absolutely no mileage in it for any politician to reach out to the other side, to be courageous in any way other than understanding that it's his suicide pact. And so it is a very, very poisonous time. And the only way we get past it is for the voters to decide they've had enough, and for the voters to start rewarding people who do cooperate and reach across party lines. But we're not seeing any of that right now. All
right, decision time just weeks away. That'll really be the final answer in all of this, especially in the Kavanaugh aftermath, how people, Republicans and Democrats, feel about how that played out. Cokie Roberts, thanks very much for being with us.
It's good to be with you.